Hi, we're going to talk about Chapter 5, which is about planning and goal setting. Now, in chapters 1 through 4, we've talked about planning as being one of the four functions of management. And you can see here in the slide is one of the primary functions. And planning creates the map, the process of how we're going to achieve the company goals. Now, there's formal planning, which is a set of rules and guidelines, but with that comes we're kind of stuck in how we do things. You see the term here, rigidity. And so we can't be more creative and try to think of a better way of doing things because we're stuck with what we have. And so one thing about planning and formal planning is that without without the opportunity to improvise a little bit or come up with a better way, it could lead to failure because we're not opening ourselves up to a new way of doing things. Now, strategic management. So strategic management is simply how we're going to do what we're going to do to achieve the company goals. It's very similar to planning, but more kind of a formalized aspect of that. And so this is going to be our first key word is going to be strategic planning. Now, I know you're saying, Rich, that's two words, but we'll use it for one for right now. So strategic management is the first key word. And so we take a look at the process, and we're going to talk about the SWOT analysis here in just a bit. But in regards to the strategy, we want to be able to show from A to B to C how the organization is going to accomplish its goals. Now, an important thing about this is you got to make sure that the employees and everybody in the organization knows what that strategy is. It used to be strategy was this well-kept secret that only the top management knew, and it was so hush-hush. No, no, nothing could be further from the truth from that. You want people to understand what the objectives of the organization are so they can take part and help out in that. And there's also fear about, well, our competition is going to do what we're doing. Well, they have a pretty good idea what it is that you're doing anyway. And so while the strategy, while the strategy is done at the leadership level, it needs to be emphasized at the floor level. All right, so in that last slide, you heard me talk about the SWOT analysis. And the SWOT analysis is the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And you can see on the slide, the internal analysis takes with our strengths and weaknesses. The external is the opportunities and threats. And SWOT is also used as a marketing tool, and you may have covered this in your marketing class too. But I just want to touch base on it just for a little bit. Now, the SWOT analysis and the internal analysis, we want to make sure that we're taking a very candid look at ourselves. What are we good at? What are we not good at? And every organization has weaknesses. Every organization has strengths. But not every organization will say, hey, this is a weakness. This is something that we should work on. Because for fear of job with a man, they might lose their job, might lose face in the organization. And so we have to be careful with that. Also, in regards to the external analysis, a cardinal sin of leadership and management is that we give ourselves too much credit, but we don't give our competition enough credit when it comes to their organizations. And so basically we say, oh, our product's the best one. Well, you know what? The competition may have a product that just might be better than yours. And so we have to deal with that. But organizations, again, whether it be arrogance or whether it be ignorance, they will say that they're better than their competition when really they might not be. So that leads us to our mission statement. And this is going to be our second keyword, is going to be the mission statement. The mission statement is our purpose of being in business. And you can see all these different areas, and not a mission statement may not cover all these areas, but we need to make sure that our mission statement is concise, clear, and can be well communicated to employees, because the employees that have to work within the mission and understand the mission. And we talked before about strategies and planning. That all has to be concealed and within that. Well, I'm sorry. It should be with the vision, values, and mission in mind as they create the path forward for the organization. So the mission statement, again, is our purpose of why we are in business. Now we take a look at the external analysis. We look at our competition. We talked about that a little bit a couple slides ago about the different types of products. They might be better than us. in terms of threats and opportunities, that could be government regulations, that could be competition, that could be maybe we don't have a skill set of people that we need in order to do the job. So that might be some external analysis we want to take a look at. Internal analysis is that the software that we're using to perform our products, the training that we do inside our organization, what is it that we do better than anyone else? That's the core competencies. So then we take a look and we look formulate strategies. I'm not going to get too much into that. What I do want to focus on is the evaluation. You've heard me talk about this in other chapters where we want to evaluate our results in terms of we have to measure, whether it be quantitative, whether it be qualitative and talking to customers. We look at our quality, we look at our processes, our throughput. We talked about that in the last chapter. And what I've seen is that companies will come up with these different strategies, but when it comes to the end to evaluate if it's going to work or not, they kind of leave that out. They implement the strategy and move forward, thinking that it is going to work. Well, that's part of the ignorant arrogance we talked about in terms of SWOT analysis. You have to make sure that we have a way to see if something is successful. If not, then we tweak it. So that's one of the things. I know you're tired of hearing me saying that, but I want to emphasize that to you. Now, there's something called a growth strategy, and it's basically where we want to go and we want to take our company and expand it to different markets. It could be different states, different cities, even different countries. And so there's some different ways here. You can see this on the screen. But I just want to talk about a couple of them. The vertical integration is where a company will hire individuals to do processes in the organization that does not work in the core product. So for example, I know that was a mouthful. For example, let's say that we are the ABC widget company. And at ABC Widgets, we create widgets. However, we have a building and the building has grounds and has, landscaping to it. We could hire a landscaping company to come in and take care of our landscape for us. That's fine. Or we could do vertical integration where we hire people to be employees of the ABC widget company that takes care of our landscaping for us. Another example of vertical integration would be cafeterias. So rather than subcontract out cafeteria to a company, we hire employees to be the chefs of the kitchen. They take care of the kitchen, they run the kitchen. So that would be vertical integration. So again, vertical integration is where we hire people that work around for the company, but not on the company's core product. And that's going to be another key word for us. It's going to be vertical integration. The other thing I want to talk about in this slide is horizontal integration. And what horizontal integration is where we're able to acquire processes that do fit into our organization. So maybe we want to buy a steel manufacturer for our widgets. All right, we can do that. Another aspect, and this is kind of an outlier for horizontal integration, is that we can acquire another company if we wanted to and take their processes and put it to ours. And that's one way that companies can stay afloat in a declining industry. Competitive strategy is simply what is the roadmap for us, for our business to compete in industry and hopefully be successful. That's the competitive strategy. And you see there's different types of strategies here. I'm not going to touch on all four. In terms of the focus strategy, you see the binoculars. That's where we're going to focus specifically on one specific area. So if you are a bike manufacturer, for example, you may want to focus just strictly on mountain bikes. Or for the widget company, we may just want to focus on small widgets instead of large widgets. Okay, so that's that focus strategy. And the last one, I don't want to talk about one of these, but I'll talk about the other one too, is basically stuck in the middle. That's where they're kind of content where they're at. They're not going to be the leader in the industry. They're not going to be behind in the industry too, but they can't get out of their own way, but they're still in business. So that's kind of like the stuck in the middle. Now, in regards to the type of strategy, it's functional strategy. What we're doing here is that we're getting different departments here. You can see the research and marketing example, and we're getting these folks from these different departments and to support the strategy. Remember how I told you how we want to get everyone involved in the strategy. We want to tell them what it is. we have to, people can't fulfill our strategy if they don't know what it is. And so we can talk about, hey, marketing, this is what we're doing. What do you think? Will it work? HR, can we go out and get the right people? How do we attract the right people in order to help us from our process? So we get all different areas in the company involved in terms of the strategy. Now, in regards to the setting of goals, their type of goals here, financial or strategic. Financial, of course, we want to make sure that we're profitable, that maybe we want to have growth in terms of profitability. Strategic will lead to that growth. How we want to do this, again, you hear me say this about the map, that's what it is, and how are we going to develop our product and how we're going to develop our market share. Now, in regards to the goal setting, if you remember in the first slide, I'm sorry, first chapter, we had the three different layers of management. And now you can kind of see this. And the three different layers was, that top management was worried about money, the middle management had to deal from top management. And then the lower level management was like, hey, we need more resources. And so you see this chart, and down at the individual employee says, don't worry about that. We'll worry about quality, just work fast. Well, they have a different objective. They're trying to get things done because maybe they don't have enough people. But you look at the top, we need to improve the company's performance. That means money, that means profitability. So this slide does a pretty good job of talking about how the three different types of management approach goals, but also in the terms of how they approach the organization itself. All right, so our last slide, management by organizations. I'm sorry, management by objectives. What will happen is that you will sit down with your subordinates and say, this is what we're going to do. This is what I have planned for you to do. And this is the time frame. This is what we want to accomplish. And this is how we're going to measure it. So when you see the points here in regards to the goal specificity, easy for me to say, is that this is what we're trying to do. This is what I want you to do, person A. And then as we look down the explicit time period, we're going to do this in 6 months. The performance feedback, how was it? What did you grow? Were you able to produce more? Was there less waste? Did you improve your customer base? Whatever the case may be. So however we're going to evaluate that. So again, that evaluation process has always got to be part of the process. All right. So that is my discussion, and I hope you enjoyed it. As always, have any questions, please reach out. Take care of yourself and have a fantastic day. Bye.